What's going on, guys? Axelon here. This is normally a channel where I just casually play video games in my off time, and then I upload the videos. Occasionally there's some movie talk once in a blue moon, but I figured I needed to actually post some thoughts about this one video that I watched, or rather, some counter thoughts. So you see, there's a channel on YouTube called The Critical Drinker. I, for one, generally enjoy his takes on movies, more or less. But his recent video regarding Godzilla vs. Kong actually had me quite puzzled. Now, I don't honestly expect this to really go anywhere. This is a small enough channel that I don't think the drinker is ever even going to see the video. Even if he does, I doubt he'll care. The goal is not to start some kind of flame war or anything, just pointing out where he and I disagreed on some things. The movie is by no means some flawless cinematic masterpiece. In fact, I have some of my own issues that go unmentioned, but I feel like his takes were extremely surface level for the most part, and often ignored what was stated either in previous movies or in the actual movie itself. So strap up and let's get started.
Also, I could be wrong on this one, but I'm pretty sure Godzilla should be about twice the size of Kong at least. I mean, look at this shot of Kong from Skull Island, where he's holding a chopper in his hands. Then look at this picture of Godzilla from 2019. Notice how he's towering over an entire fucking city? Now they're conveniently the same size, so they can have an evenly matched battle, I guess. I mean, it's not like continuity, logic, and common sense particularly matters in films like this, but it would be nice if they had at least some idea of the scale of these things.
You don't want to wake up the big one.
How big is it?
It's bigger. It wiped out his whole family. Kong's the last of his kind, but he's still growing.
I mean, it's not like continuity, logic, and common sense particularly matters in films like this, but it would be nice if they had at least some idea of the scale of these things.
It wiped out his whole family. Kong's the last of his kind, but he's still growing.
I mean, Godzilla 2014 was a decent stab at reinvigorating a franchise that had been practically stomped into the ground by the god-awful 1998 movie.
I mean, I guess? It's not like there weren't 6 other Godzilla movies in between the 1998 movie and the 2014 Godzilla movie, one of which was celebrating a hefty milestone anniversary for the Godzilla franchise. I hope we're not judging just between the 1954 original Japanese one and then the 98 movie, and then the 2014 movie with no thought to all the other Godzilla movies in between. I mean, it's not like Godzilla is the longest running film franchise in history or anything. I'm not going to focus on his trailer video, though. Just putting out a couple snippets to frame the meat of our conversation here. So let's hop right into the main event, shall we?
This movie is the bestest movie ever because the big monkey punches the big lizard and it makes stuff blow up, and that makes my brain do a happy. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now. Honestly, trying to do any kind of in-depth breakdown of this movie is a bit like a gourmet food connoisseur writing a 10,000 word review of a doner kebab. Yes, I'm that damn pretentious.
Well, at least we're being honest.
Godzilla vs. Kong is without doubt one of the most fucking retarded special and unique movies that I've ever seen since, well, Godzilla King of the Monsters. Whatever passes for a plot here could basically be boiled down to giant lizard is going around smashing things up.
Godzilla's out there and he's hurting people and we don't know why.
For the record, the human antagonists in the movie are using technology that lures Godzilla from place to place. This is actually spelled out in the movie, pretty early on in the movie, actually. The rest of the world does not know the antagonists are doing this, which is why Godzilla seems to be randomly just attacking humans.
So the tiny humans recruit giant monkey to punch giant lizard and make him go away.
Actually, this is completely wrong. They are doing their utmost to have Kong avoid Godzilla. This is also spelled out in the movie multiple times. The humans are terrified of Kong meeting Godzilla because they're scared Godzilla is going to hunt him down and murder him. They want Kong because they need him to lead him down to the Hollow Earth, not to punch Godzilla.
So they run into each other and the giant lizard's like, I'm harder than you. And the giant monkey's like, no, I'm harder than you. Basically, it's like any two Scottish guys meeting each other for the first time.
Agreed?
Then they punch each other for a while until a giant robot lizard shows up. Then they both punch that until it blows up. Then giant lizard and giant monkey make friends, and the tiny humans live happily ever after.
I suppose if you fell asleep after the first fight and then woke up just in time for the second fight, that would in fact seem to be the plot of the movie.
Basically, this is exactly what I predicted from the trailer. An absolutely brain-dead, nonsensical string of events that exist for no other reason than to set up the big punching match between Big Monkey and Big Lizards.
Agreed?
Oh, and for some reason, all the other Titans from the end of the last movie are nowhere to be found. I guess they had more important stuff to do.
The movie also explains this. Godzilla told them to GTFO and leave humans alone, which is why Titans haven't been seen in 3 whole years.
The problem you're always going to have with monster movies like this is that there's no real way for the human characters to meaningfully interact with such enormous creatures, so the only solution is to give them a kind of movie within a movie all to themselves.
Are we going to ignore that the humans are actually having basic conversations with Kong via the little girl and her sign language?
Is that there's no real way for the human characters to meaningfully interact with such enormous creatures.
If that doesn't count as real way to interact with the big monster, I don't know what would in your eyes.
Now, a smart screenplay could probably craft an interesting drama featuring a cast of compelling characters set against the backdrop of all-out monster warfare.
Agreed?
I would counter this with the fact that they tried this in the 2014 Godzilla and got roasted for it, and then they tried again in King of the Monsters with less humans to focus a bit more on big monster fights, and were told once again, you have too many humans, not enough big monsters fighting, so in Godzilla vs. Kong, they came out and said, okay, we'll have the bare minimum of humans, and focus on the big monsters.
Unfortunately, Godzilla vs. Kong isn't any of those things. Not a single one of the bloated cast of theoretical characters have anything approaching an arc.
Not really the case. Dr. Lind in this movie is the human who was initially scared to even be in the vicinity of Kong, and by the end of the movie is willing to potentially sacrifice himself if it means reviving Kong to help stop Mechagodzilla. However, I will concede that most of the human cast do not change much in personality, but they serve their purpose.
They're all one-dimensional stereotypes without an ounce of personality, nuance, or charisma, and they don't change or develop one iota from beginning to end. The result here is that you end up not giving a shit what any of them are doing, whether they succeed or fail, or even whether they live or die.
Agreed?
The main storyline for them involves shady businessmen recruiting geeky science guys to lead an expedition into the core of the Earth to recover a magical power source that can defeat Godzilla. And for this, they need Kong to lead the way because apparently he used to live in the center of the Earth.
You serious?
Yeah, I'm afraid I am.
So this actually contradicts your earlier point about them wanting Kong to punch Godzilla in the face.
So the tiny humans recruit Giant Monkey to punch Giant Lizard and make him go away.
Because, as you yourself have just stated, they need Kong to lead them to the Hollow Earth. And no, he did not used to live there. He's never been there before. They even bring up the concept of genetic memory in the movie, like with salmon spawning, to explain how he would know how to get there. This is all spelled out in the movie.
So Geeky Science Guy goes to Skull Island, where beautiful science lady has been studying Kong in a giant holodeck, and she's been using the little girl who's the key to everything to communicate with him through sign language. This is real, this is a thing which is in this movie.
Now, hang on just a second. Now, suddenly, we are acknowledging the little girl who communicates with him?
The problem you're always going to have with monster movies like this is that there's no real way for the human characters to meaningfully interact with such enormous creatures.
So why complain about it earlier that they can't communicate with the big monsters?
And she's been using the little girl who's the key to everything to communicate with him through sign language.
If you think that's stupid, that's okay. It's okay to think that's stupid, I don't care. But they are, in fact, communicating with him. This contradicts your earlier points.
So they fly Kong to Antarctica because apparently you can lift a massive creature weighing thousands of tons using just a few helicopters.
Actually, you can. So this one I had to look up. I did not know this off the top of my head. But a single Osprey, which is some of the helicopters we see there lifting Kong here, can lift up to 15,000 pounds externally. There are also some Chinooks, present, which can also lift up to around 16,000 pounds. So multiply this by the number of helicopters we see, and that's at least 180,000 pounds of lift. So yes, you really can do that. And this is real technology too. This is not made up sci-fi stuff. Some of this technology has even been around since the 60s. This is also a nod to the original King Kong vs. Godzilla movie, where they airlifted him with the more ridiculous balloons. So this is actually much more preferable and believable.
And they're joined by shady businessman's daughter, and damn, she's hot. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
Agreed?
Anyway, the movie does everything short of bringing up a rolling ticker tape, warning you that she's going to betray the team the moment she gets what she wants. And to be honest, if you don't figure this out within about 30 seconds of her arrival, then you're probably a character in this film.
Agreed?
So Kong leads them down to the center of the Earth, where gravity can flip upside down so you can end up with mountains and lakes right above your heads. I legitimately damaged my brain trying to comprehend the physics behind this.
Agreed?
But never mind, they make it to a giant temple and recover a sample of the magical bullshit power source. Who constructed this temple?
Okay, this is a fair question. The movie does not explain who built the giant temple. We can only assume from this point, so my assumption is that a bunch of Kongs built it, judging by the big red ancient Kong handprint showing how to open the door.
Why is there a giant axe there for Kong?
As for the axe, we can assume it was also made by a Kong, because the movie does tell us that once upon a time, in ancient times, there's a bunch of Godzillas and a bunch of Kongs, and there was a big war, and they killed each other. So while not all of it is spelled out, as with other cases that I've pointed out so far, it's really not hard to put two and two together.
How is there sunlight down in this place in the center of the Earth? How does any of this stuff function? Don't know.
Agreed?
But wouldn't you know it, shady businessman's daughter betrays them and steals the sample so that her dad can finish work on a giant robot lizard to destroy Godzilla. But of course, science inevitably goes too far and the robot lizard gets out of control and tries to kill everyone.
So this is not incorrect, but what is not being mentioned here is that Kevin, aka the stupid head of Ghidorah, is actually the one piloting Mechagodzilla. This is a nod to a different Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla film, specifically the one with Kiryu, except in that one it was the original Godzilla who was piloting it and not Ghidorah. So while King of the Monsters had all kinds of fan service, Godzilla vs. Kong also has a fair bit of fan service.
So Kong and Godzilla have to team up and stop it. That's the powerful message behind this movie, you see. Human ambition is the real monster here, not the skyscraper-sized lizards that can crush entire cities and kill tens of thousands of people just by walking around.
Are you serious?
Considering that the very first Godzilla movie was a metaphor about the nuclear holocaust suffered by Japan in the wake of the atomic bombings, what's wrong with that?
I just love how this movie tries to frame the creation of Mechagodzilla as some kind of evil plot that has to be stopped at all costs, when in reality it's a completely understandable response to an extinction-level event. I would absolutely choose an all-powerful weapon system that was under my command, rather than just blindly hoping that Godzilla and the other titans don't decide to wipe out the human race.
Considering that the very first Godzilla movie was a metaphor about the nuclear holocaust suffered by Japan in the wake of the atomic bombings, what's wrong with that?
Jesus, if just one of these things gets out of control, it could destroy an entire city and kill millions of people.
Considering that the very first Godzilla movie was a metaphor about the nuclear holocaust suffered by Japan in the wake of the atomic bombings, what's wrong with that?
Ah, fuck it, who even cares?
I just think it's ironic that we're championing the creation of an all-powerful weapon to subdue our enemies, which it's just history repeating itself with the nuclear warhead situation all over again. The atomic bombs was the end-all, be-all weapon of World War II, and then the message of Godzilla was that through our actions we have created a monster that is that power, solidified, defined. But now, let's just make an even bigger and stronger weapon. Yes, that is the answer.
In my fantastic summary of the trailer, I also predicted that Millie Bobby Brown's storyline would basically boil down to, well, we had to give her something to do. And wouldn't you know it, I was 100% right.
Agreed?
She's there to uncover shady businessman's evil plan, for which she enlists the help of her best friend and a conspiracy theorist working as a mole. I love how they track him down within a matter of hours, when apparently the best law enforcement agencies on Earth couldn't find him.
Was that ever actually a thing? Were law enforcement actually trying to find him? I don't recall that happening, though I will concede the point if it turns out they were. As far as I was tracking, everyone had kind of just mocked him as some crackpot conspiracy theorist and paid him no mind.
I also love how her friend is literally just there to act like a clueless asshole for the entire movie. And honestly, I thought he was a girl until someone called him Josh.
Agreed?
I particularly love how two teenagers and a fat podcaster can infiltrate multiple high-security compounds without anyone noticing them, because I guess surveillance cameras, biometric security, armed patrols, and fucking locked doors just aren't a thing in this universe.
In all fairness, the first one they infiltrate had been pretty thoroughly trashed by Godzilla, so that one's a bit understandable, and when they infiltrate the second one via the super railroad whatever, they do get caught. So it's not like they just got away scot-free.
Don't worry though, some characters don't even have a purpose in this movie at all. Like Millie Bobby Brown's dad, who basically gets shuttled from place to place and plays absolutely no role in the story. Or beautiful science lady, whose only function is to manage the little girl who's the key to everything.
Agreed?
Anyway, this stuff's all pretty much irrelevant. You don't watch a Godzilla movie for the compelling storylines, you want to see monsters blow shit up, and, well, the movie certainly delivers on that, over and over again. Seriously, some of these fights go on for so long that you almost forget why they started, and it just becomes exhausting to watch after a while. It's just a CGI monkey punching a CGI lizard, with no real physical damage to either one of them.
No damage? I mean, I suppose if we ignore Kong slicing into Godzilla's leg with an axe, this is the first time we've seen Godzilla in this particular series get sliced like that. Likewise, we have Godzilla clawing up Kong's chest, dislocating Kong's shoulder with a loud, audible popping noise. I mean, you even show the clip where he snaps his shoulder back into place later in the video, and then stomping on his ribcage to the point of nearly killing him, and that Kong couldn't even stand up anymore when Godzilla was through with him. The humans had to resuscitate him. That's how badly Godzilla beat him, so I don't see how you couldn't tell who was winning the fight. There was also the earlier fight with the aircraft carrier, where Godzilla was drowning him in the ocean, and the humans had to save him. Or the second fight when Kong very briefly knocked Godzilla out, and Godzilla was disoriented for the start of the round 3 fight. That's, of course, disregarding the entire Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla fight, where Mechagodzilla defeated him in a beam struggle and was throwing him around like a ragdoll before Kong arrived to help. I get turning your brain off, but if you're going to criticize a movie for stuff like this, you have to be able to at least recognize when the things you're criticizing them for not doing are actually happening.
I keep comparing this to other CGI battle movies like Pacific Rim, but the difference there is that the human Jaegers took some real punishment, so there was at least a sense that something was at stake.
Typically, the Jaegers only took punishment when they were about to lose. For the most part, it's the same thing you've described earlier, in that you just have a monster and a big robot punching each other. Yes, damage occurs, but if you're going to acknowledge the damage in Pacific Rim, you have to acknowledge the damage that happened in Godzilla vs. Kong. One was not different from the other. Both sides damaged the other party, whether it's Pacific Rim or Godzilla vs. Kong.
Here, I really didn't know who was winning or losing, because neither creature does anything except get knocked down for a while, and pretty soon, I didn't particularly care one way or the other. Also, it's kind of weird how they move in ponderous slow motion under normal circumstances, but when it's time to fight, they suddenly become as fast and agile as a pair of wild dogs.
I don't think anyone runs around sprinting, throughout their entire day. They conserve energy and they walk or sit down when they need to, and then when the time comes, that's when people sprint. I don't see why it's different here.
I get they want to make the fight scenes more fast-paced and interesting than watching a pair of oil tankers bumping into each other, but it just destroys the sense of epic destruction for me. Basically what I'm saying here is that the movie delivers all the CGI spectacle you could ever ask for, but there's no real weight or significance to any of it. It's just a bunch of pretty images on screen, and some of them even look kinda spotty if I'm honest. And when there's nothing really at stake, it's hard to care about what you're watching. The movie also kinda glosses over the fact that tens of thousands of innocent people are dying as a result of this shit. Damn, at one point they end up sinking an aircraft carrier by using it as a wrestling ring, and there's not even a throwaway line about the thousands of sailors who just took a one-way trip to the bottom of the ocean. The intention with this movie was clearly to just embrace the insanity of the monsterverse and not care too much about the details, and to be honest, I don't think that was entirely the wrong decision.
Agreed?
The first Godzilla movie was bogged down by a heavy, ponderous storyline that tried way too hard to conjure up a serious drama, and instead just killed the fun in the process. Godzilla vs. Kong represents the very opposite end of the spectrum. It's big and dumb, and it doesn't make a lick of sense. It never once stops to question or explain any of the nonsense that's going on.
You serious?
And it certainly doesn't apologise for any of it. The only problem is that they threw away everything else in the process. By having a plot that makes no sense, filled with characters you couldn't give a shit about, and battle scenes that are just big monsters punching each other for 90 minutes, the movie really doesn't give you much incentive to get invested. And I can't help but think there's a good middle ground they could have found here. It's perfectly possible to have a big dumb monster movie that still manages to make you care about what's happening, but it depends on crafting fun, interesting characters caught up in an intriguing storyline. In this case, Godzilla vs. Kong really is just a big dumb monster movie and absolutely nothing else. Whether that's enough to keep you entertained, well, it's up to you. Anyway, that really is all I've got for today. Go away now.
Now that that's all said and done, what I think could have been more useful would be more legitimate criticisms of the plot. For instance, how come suddenly society has advanced to the level that they can just build a Mechagodzilla? Like, that wasn't really hinted at before in 2014 or King of the Monsters. What happened to the oxygen destroyer from King of the Monsters? That thing basically killed Godzilla. He was severely wounded and had to recuperate in his little hideaway. Where's the oxygen destroyer? How come that's not being used again if people are indeed terrified Godzilla's going to start killing humanity? Use another oxygen destroyer on him. Why didn't Monarch use the Orca system from King of the Monsters to try to lure Godzilla away from populated areas? Because we know they can do that, because that's the whole purpose of the Orca system, is to lure kaiju. We see the antagonists do it with Mechagodzilla. Why not do it on their end? See, these are the actual types of continuity issues that you should be able to tackle with a movie like this. And that's just off the top of my head. See, I am not some mindless fanboy. I can easily start picking apart the movie. I mean, I enjoyed it, but those are just some actual criticisms that I thought of, as opposed to, well, why is Kong bigger now than when he was in Skull Islands? You see the difference? That's what I'm trying to illustrate with this video. Hopefully you form your own opinions when you go see the movie. Again, I am not here to start a flame war or attack the drinker in any way. As I've said, I've enjoyed many of his videos in the past. I just don't agree with this particular take. So thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you will all have a wonderful day.